Hey there and welcome back. This is the final section of our dispersion or disintegration effect. Both names I think are appropriate here. We're just going to be doing a little bit of coloring and just some overall work on the photo. It's going to go pretty quick. Let's get into it. So we're going to start off with creating a new layer, and you see all this light that's kind of coming in the background there? I want to make some of that. I want to make some of that light. So it's actually not that hard. Just hit B for the brush tool and hold Alt or Option to sample this color. Let's just sample like that color there. Okay, perfect. You can change this color at any time. Now B for the brush tool. We're just going to right click. Just choose a large soft edge brush. That's your goal here. So choose it. Choose large soft edge brush, and then just change your flow down to like 10%. So hit Shift 1, and then I'm just going to paint this like over top of some of these little particles here. Okay. There we go. It's on the top layer, so it's just going to be over top of some of this stuff. There we go. And because my flow is set to, 10%, it's going to be a pretty subtle effect here. Okay. There we go. The idea is like some of the light should go on top of that. Now, I don't want this to really be anywhere visible other than my particles. So, good thing we have a layer mask. So I'm going to hold Alt or Option and copy that onto my layer mask. And there we have some of the light from the background just showing up over top of our particles. And we'll change this from normal to screen. That's just going to make sure it only is going to lighten things. You could use lighten as well if you wanted. And then just lower the opacity of that a little bit. Perfect. Okay. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to create a color balance adjustment layer. There we go. I'm going to use the same layer mask. Okay. So Alt or Option, click and drag to that layer mask. And now with my color balance, you can see I can start to color balance my particles. I'm running into the same issue I did. I need a better layer mask here because it's not going to include those. So how do we get a better layer mask? By now you probably know. Okay. We literally just shift click all of these layers, not the body, all of those layers. Controller Command J to duplicate them, Controller Command E to convert them all into one, Shift Control Command close bracket, bring it up to the top, wait for the ambulance. Nah, it's fine. Controller, as soon as I said it was fine, it turned off. That's funny. Let's hold Controller Command and click on that layer now. Okay, so we just duplicated the entire group of particles, all those groups. Then we merged the duplicates together. Then we put that on the top, and now I'm turning that into a selection. Okay, and now this selection then gets loaded as a layer mask. Okay, so I can just, because I want it for this layer too, so let's just fill both of these layer masks with black. Remember, this is the layer that we just did. We added some light. Okay, so this layer mask, you can hit Shift Delete keyboard shortcut for the fill dialog, fill it with black. Shift Delete, fill that one with black too. It's hidden, so it won't let you do it. Okay, but now all we have to do is hold Controller Command and click on that, and then on the layer masks for these, hit Controller Command I for invert. Okay, now we actually have the proper layer mask that we want. And in fact, we're just going to group them together and then hold Alt or Option and then put that on the entire group. And then, you know what, we don't even need these layer masks. I'll just fill them with white. Because you got a group that takes care of it all for you. And we'll just change that color. Alright, we'll just call this particle coloring 2. There we go. So this one, again, a little bit of light, just kind of coming in there. And you can paint it in there if you want a little bit more light there as it gets farther away. Just kind of paint it in there. Okay. And then this layer mask will just keep it only visible there. And then we've got our color balance. So let's double click on our color balance. Does that look right? No. It's too much blue. Too much blue. There we go. That's looking pretty good. So my suggestion with the color balance layer is a little bit less cyan. My suggestion with the color balance layer is like get it to where you want it as far as like the color goes, and then just lower the opacity. Okay, so that's like a pretty good color. So then I'm just going to lower the opacity. Like I'm going to hit V for my move tool. And then once you're in your move tool, you can use 1 through 0 on the top of your keyboards to change the opacity of your layer, which is so helpful, especially with an effect like this. Like check it out. I can hit 5 and that layer becomes 50% visible. I can hit 9, it becomes 90%. I can hit 1 and it becomes 10%. Okay, so let's hit like 2. So it's like 20% visible, and then I don't want it visible closer to my subject. Okay, so I'm going to invert my layer mask and then just use like a regular soft edge brush. And then make it visible like towards the outer areas where it's supposed to be farther away. Right? It's going to interact with more atmosphere as it gets farther. So super subtle. We could probably increase the visibility of that. But basically it's going to get more blue as it gets further away. And, you know, hopefully that gives us a little bit more depth. Alrighty, about 50%. That looks pretty good. So there we go. You can see it's giving it a little bit more depth, which is very nice to have. Cool. Couple last finishing steps here. I just want to add some overall fog and shade to this. You know what? I wasn't planning on including this, but we have some really nice cloud brushes at Phlearn, so I'll just include one of these with your download too. On a new layer, let's just sample this nice color here. There we go. And I'm going to just paint with our cloud brush over top of our subject a little bit. Okay, now I realize it's dark right now, but change our layer blend mode from normal to screen. And there we go. We have our cloud brush over top of our subject now and over top of the particles. Let's just delete it and then we'll start over. Because there is some atmosphere in this image and I want to reproduce some of it. Okay. So you can see the little bit of clouds and stuff like that there that we just made. Pretty cool, right? And then if you want, you can give it a blur. I kind of like that it has a little bit of definition in it already. But if you wanted to give it a blur, you could do that too. There we go. Cool. And let's just lower that opacity there. It's subtle stuff, but I'm hoping it makes it look more dimensional and integrates with the photo a little bit better. Okay, now we're just going to finish it off here. We're just going to create a curves adjustment layer, make it a little bit darker. Invert that layer mask, and then I'm just going to make a round layer mask here. Just a vignette, super simple here. Just a round layer mask. Let's put it over here so the direction of the light kind of makes sense. Controller Command I to invert the layer mask, and then deselect by hitting Controller Command D, and then now this layer mask is the opposite of what we want, so now we need to hit Controller Command I again. I know, super confusing. Filter, and if you have a different way of doing that, totally cool. You can use fill. I just like invert because white goes to black, black goes to white with invert. Filter, and then blur, and then Gaussian blur. Perfect. Then we just do a different curves adjustment layer that's close to our subject. So pop this here. Okay. And then I'm just going to do like this because I want like rays of light coming down to light my subject. So beautiful. Controller Command I to invert that on my layer mask. There we go. And it's done. Nah, just kidding. We need a little bit of light rays, right? So filter, we could add actual light rays. We'll see how this looks. We're going to go filter. We're going to go to blur. I've been talking into a camera all day. I'm losing my words. All right, filter, blur, and then we're going to go to a motion blur. Okay, I'm going to motion blur this down in the direction that I want. Boom, look at that. Okay, motion blurred it. Now, if I hold Alt or Option, you're going to see we still have some kind of hard edges on there. So after your motion blur, not a bad idea to then do a Gaussian blur. So we'll just go to filter, blur, and then Gaussian blur. Doesn't have to be huge because you're going to lose all your definition, but it should be enough to smooth out some of the hard edges on the light rays there. There we go. Very, very nice. And then if you don't want it anywhere, you can just use your you can just use a black brush to just kind of paint it away at like a low flow. Alright, so there's the before and the after. It's just kind of, now that we have all those particles in there, I just wanted to like create a little bit more of a focal point. So this first layer just kind of darkens the edges. It's shifted to the left a little bit, so the left of the image is lighter than the right. See how this area is being darkened, but that's not. Boom. And here we add some little particles. By the way, if you want to create actual, like, well-defined light rays, you can do that with one of these particle brushes. Believe it or not. Believe it. Here's how we do it. We just create a curves adjustment layer. So you didn't know, but you're also getting light ray brushes with these particle brushes. Hello. There we go. So we'll just create a bright layer. Invert the layer mask by hitting Control Command I, okay? And then I'm just going to do like this, okay? Just paint on it, like that. Bang, check that out, beautiful, huh? Okay, so this is now what my layer mask looks like, Alt or Option, that's my layer mask right now. So it's just those particles, but they're big, right? And then, just need to do that. So we just go to filter, then we go down to blur and over to motion blur. Same angle as before, right? Same angle. Hit Control Command T, and then I just want to stretch this so it's like coming from there and doing like that. Just hold Control or Command to move any of these points, by the way. Alright, Control or Command. There we go. Just give it some variation. And it'll make it look like it's kind of coming through some clouds that are over there. And then there you go. Alt or Option. That's what my light rays look like now. I think it looks pretty good. So, particle brush into light rays. I feel like I should drop my microphone, but I can't because it's right up here. I'll tap on it. There you go. That's the Florin equivalent of dropping the mic. Pretty cool, right? Particle brush into light rays. Who knew? So let's just go ahead and shift click all of those, Control or Command G, and we'll just call this finishing steps. Now I'm going to not do this on camera, but off camera I will go back through and oh, I turned my reflection off. Off camera I'm going to go back through and make sure all that my layers are nice and nothing is confusing, because I want you to be able to see this PSD. So it might look a tiny bit different from this when you download it, but it's going to be a lot better and more organized. But usually if it's just for me, this is just fine for me because I know how to navigate in here. Like I can go in here and be like, I can turn these particles off and on, things like that. But when I'm going to give a PST to other people, like you or a client, I organize everything quite a bit better. So here we go. Check it out. Our sketch. Boom. Look at that. We stuck pretty well to our sketch, and that was very helpful to get this overall effect. And totally non-destructive here. I can just turn all these layers off, back to my original image, turn them back on, and there's our before and after. Thank you so much. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you liked it, give us a big thumbs up. Just leave a review right down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks again, and enjoy creating your own dispersion effects on your photographs. I'll learn you later. Bye, everyone.